evening and welcome to Paranormal Files Into the Darkness. Tonight we have a guest and she is the Ghost Chick. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well, and yourself?
I'm fantastic.
All right, well, thanks for coming on. Let's just dive right into things. So I like to ask everybody, how'd you get started? Like what got you into the paranormal?
Oh, this is supposed to be an hour long, so
Well, we can go a
okay.
little over.
All right, so I just start at the beginning. I've seen dead people since I was a little kid.
Okay.
So that's what got me started. And for a long time, like I quit talking about them because they got me in trouble. Got me in trouble a lot of times. So my mom would just be mad at me because I was talking to people that's not there. And yeah. So, and then I didn't have very many friends either growing up because I'm not going to birthday parties. I'm not coming to your sleepover. I'm not going to brownie camp. I'm not going anywhere because I didn't know what I was going to find at other people's houses. So I pretty much, kept all that to myself and stayed away from as much as I possibly could because it always got me in trouble. But now, hey, what the heck? I may as well do it, right?
So did your parents believe that's a good leads me into the next question. Did your parents believe in the paranormal or what was their initial take when you were so young? I mean, I'm assuming at a young age they thought you were just talking to imaginary friends, like everybody
Yeah,
else.
well, honestly, I think they just thought I was weird. My mom believes she's got a little bit of this too. Maybe not quite as intense as I am,
Hmm.
but like they knew as soon as something bad was going to happen, I already knew it. I would like come running out of my bed in the middle of the night and jump on top of them. And 5 minutes later, the phone would ring and it was something bad, coming from my grandparents or something. So they always knew, well, Angel knows. And then they just ignored me pretty much at the house. But what got me in trouble was when I would go on field trips or something, and I would like lose my stuff, in the middle of the field trip. And they'd be like, okay, you can't be doing this because, people are going to think you're. So yeah, I quit. I just quit. And
Oh
they just
wow.
kind of ignored it. If you brush it under the carpet, it doesn't exist kind of thing.
Hmm.
You just don't talk about it. You just don't talk about the weird sibling.
So, um, now do you also when you see them, do you talk to them? Do they? I mean, do you have the ability to converse?
Sometimes if they want to talk,
Yeah.
um, they make up they make up their mind whether they want to talk to you or not. Some of them are just visual. Some of them will talk. Some of them aren't visual at all. Some of them just crawl in my head and are talking to me. So, I mean, I never know what's going to happen at any given moment or where I'm at. You just never know.
Wow. So how
Yeah.
are you on investigations then? I'm sure um, with Gettysburg and other places I know from before our conversation, before we came on air, you were saying I'm sure that's got to be intense to be in locations like that.
It 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 is sometimes. I've learned that some of them are residual, so I don't pay so much attention to them.
Okay.
But they will catch my eye. I'll be like, out of nowhere, I get like that deer in the headlight look, or but the time that really affects me the most, of course, is July 1st through the 4th. I have a really hard time being in that town those couple days because that's anniversary. And not only do you have the ramped up residual, but then you have the intelligent too. And it makes me kind of crazy that week. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like I can't even go near like Cemetery Ridge and stuff because and Pickett's Charge. Oh, that place that just makes me, I'll just start crying for no reason at all. Like I can hear them. I can hear them screaming, and I can, and that it's awful. It's awful. So I try to stay away from like key, especially. But I mean, it's kind of hard to do that because the whole entire town was a battlefield. So,
Oh yeah.
but where it was so intense, like the wheat field and peach orchard and Pickett's Charge, yeah, that hits me really, really hard in them spots.
Yeah. So when you investigate, do you investigate like if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I think I have something going on in my house. Can you come check it out?" Do you do investigations like that, or
Yeah.
do you mean other locations?
No, I do all kinds of locations. I do personal homes and stuff, especially if they're having problems, in their house or something, or if they have little kids, especially.
Mm.
Um, and then I take it personal because they've been messing with me since I was a little kid too. So, and I don't even like. There's people that charge money to do that and stuff, and I don't. I don't do that. I I look at it as this is my gift, and I'm supposed to help people. You know, And the reason why I do this is because I want to know, why are you still here? You know, I see you and I'm talking to you. Why are you still here? Why would you want to be here? You know what I mean? Why would
Hmm.
they still want to be hanging out here? There's got to be somewhere better.
Right.
There has to
Has
be.
any of them ever answered that question as to why they're here, or do they just not know why? Like why?
No, they never really answer. I mean, like the ones where I'm in Gettysburg, I work
Yeah.
mainly with the Farnsworth House.
Okay.
And every one of those spirits, they have a personal reason to be in that space.
Okay.
It's their home. Like old man Sweeney, that was his inn, that was his home, that was his business. He's not leaving there. He didn't give it up to the Confederates. He's not going to give it up to the Schultzes who own it now. He's just going to stay there until the place falls down around his ears. He's not going anywhere. So,
Oh,
I mean, that's the reason why he's still here because I've caught him on the spirit box. I'm like, Harvey Sweeney, why are you here? He's like, mine. Mine. I'm like, okay. It's his. So it's his.
nice.
Yeah.
So what is one? And I ask this all the time, and I get different answers because there's probably just not one. But what's one or of your memorable investigations? Is there like a
Oh,
oh crap, or is there multiple ones? I mean, I'm fascinated. But
I have a lot. I mean, the ones that really sneak up on me are the ones that I'm not investigating at all. um, yeah, like I'll be on vacation or something, and I can't I can't turn it off, and for
Mhm.
some reason I stupidly think I can. Um, I think, oh, I'm going to go on vacation, so I'm going to leave that at home, and it doesn't work that way. So those are the ones that really get me, and then it makes me sad because I'm like, I have no equipment, I have nothing to back up what I just saw. I'm like, but yeah, South Dakota, Cody, Wyoming was crazy. And I was on vacation, wasn't expecting anything. I'm just out there to have a good time.
Mhm.
Um, Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, that was that was a good time. And again, me and my friends just went there. I tried to get in for an investigation. It was sold out and everything. So we just went on the tour. And I ended up hijacking the tour because as soon as I walk in, I'm seeing this, and I'm pointing this out, I'm pointing that out, and I'm talking to them, and I'm doing this and that. And the tour guide's standing there like, and he was like, what else do you see? And I'm like, okay. I'm like, come on, let's go this way, And everybody on the tour is like, man, this is cool. So, yeah. But I mean, Halloween this year was fun though.
Okay.
That was fun. I had a late mini paranormal investigation for the Farnsworth house.
Okay.
And I only had like 5 people. It was just, 2 couples and myself. And this girl was sitting on this back pew in the attic of the Farnsworth house. And I just had this really bad feeling. I'm like, there's something here that usually isn't here. Like, I'm pretty much on a personal level anymore with the ghosts that live in the Farnsworth house. But there was just something, there was like something strange there, like
Okay.
something that I haven't picked up on before. And I kept like looking over in this corner and I'm like, there's something there. And that girl got tossed out of her seat, like thrown, like forward.
Wow.
And I was like, well, that's really cool, but it's kind of disturbing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I love it when people get thrown, but I mean, yeah.
wow. So that leads me to an
I
interesting question. You said you're pretty familiar with the Farnsworth House ghosts. Do they have like a sense of humor or mess with you since you're there frequently?
They do. They do. Um, there's one in particular. Is a Confederate soldier. His name is Walter. Um, he gets a little. He is a little personal sometimes. I have to wear garters on my socks because if I don't, he rolls them down around my ankles like on Mama's Family.
Uh huh.
I'll be in the and he rolls them down. Now he's learned to unbuckle my bra. I'll be like in the middle of my tour and I talk with my arms all the time, I'm like crazy Italian lady talking with my arms.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, I feel it come unsnapped and I'm like, good grief. I'm like, really? Yeah.
That is
He does
funny.
he does crazy stuff like that. And we have a cat. We have a cat at the house, at the Farnsworth house, ghost cat. And it likes to dart like in between my legs and try to trip me.
Wow.
Hmm.
Interesting.
And then I was doing my tour one night, and sometimes I have to wear that period style dress, with the big hoop skirt and the whole deal. And I was standing in front of my whole audience of people, and my skirt lifted up like 2.5 feet off the ground. And I wish I could catch the ladies. I've been trying to message her and contact her, but when she took pictures, because it just wouldn't go the whole way down then, and I'm like trying to knock it down. I'm like, come on, get out of there. But I could like feel like little kids' hands like
Oh,
around my leg. And she took a picture and you can clearly see this little kid's face peeking out from underneath my skirt. I'm like, you have to send that to me. She's like, I will. She hasn't sent it to me yet. So
that is wild. That is wow.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a little crazy there sometimes, but it's fun. I mean, it's exciting because you just never know what's going to happen there.
that's and how long have you been doing it at the Farnsworth House? How long you been?
Oh, I've been off and on there since 2019.
Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Now is
Yep.
Gettysburg your primary? Like, is that where you spend most of your time, or do you?
No, not so much. I mean, I live in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So I live on the other I live on the opposite end of the state. But like this summer I was in Gettysburg all summer. I'd go there for 2 or 3 weeks. I'd come home for a week, do my stuff here, and then I'd leave and I'd go back and I'd work there and do stuff. But yeah.
Oh.
It's my favorite haunt.
Oh
It's my
yeah.
favorite haunt. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been all kinds of crazy places, and like the Crescent prison. I did that. I've been to a couple
Mhm.
sanitariums and asylums and stuff like that. But Gettysburg is my favorite haunt
I heard
because anywhere
Creston's
you
good, man.
go,
Yeah. Have you been to Penhurst? I'm assuming. Have you been there?
Yes. Yes, I've been to Penhurst. I didn't I didn't get a whole lot there.
No.
And that's why, yeah, no, that's why we call it ghost hunting, not
Yeah.
ghost getting. Sometimes they're not on the payroll. And that's what I tell people, the ghosts aren't on the payroll. They
Hmm.
don't know when to show up, either they're there or they're not there. I mean, sometimes you can walk in a place and it's like crazy. And then some days you walk into something and it's supposed to be there and it's just doesn't, it's just not there. So I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, it's not like on Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters and stuff like that. Yeah,
No.
they work on ratings. I don't. It
So you're
takes me
not
a
going,
long.
oh my God, I got touched, or oh my God.
No, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be
I
like,
mean, I know.
I think I'm possessed.
When we started getting into this, and I haven't been doing it that long, a couple of years, Gwen and I have been doing it. We used to watch the shows, and I always thought to myself, you're going into a place, it's going to be haunted, and if you get touched, don't you expect? And I get it, you have to be dramatic to sell the ratings rather than being like, oh man, I got touched, or But yeah, I know Gwen likes Crescent. She did a little with Ghost Hunt USA, did a little tour with them for a little bit before they went out. But she was there, and in Penhurst she was there. So yeah, she loves Crescent.
Yeah, Crescent was really interesting. Crescent was really cool. I was in the one sale where the serial killer was, and they put him on death row there.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so they locked me in his cell. They were like, "Go to the cell that you're most drawn to," and I did. I walked right into it, and they're like, "Oh, why'd you pick that one?" I was like, "I don't know." And they're like, "Well, let me tell you which one you're in." And I was like, "Oh, of course, this is the one I picked." But when I go to these investigations, I look like a total schmo because I have this fishing vest and I put all my equipment, in all those little pouches and stuff.
Hmm.
And I'm like loaded for bear, And so I'm pretty weighed down with everything. But I walked into that cell and I'm sitting in there and I'm trying to do an EVP session and all I got was heavy breathing on my voice recorder.
Hmm.
But when I walked out, the girl that was with me, she goes, "Oh, good God, Angel." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Look down." I looked down and my shirt was pulled up like underneath my chin and I never felt it. I didn't even realize. And I still had that vest on. And
Yeah.
she's like, "You want to put those away?" And I was like, "Oh, Lord." I was so embarrassed because there was all these people there. I was like, and it was me because I had a K2 meter in one hand. I had my voice recorder in the other, and I'm talking, and I'm trying to get, and it blipped a couple times, nothing big, nothing to write
Hmm.
home about. And like I said, I got pounds, but that was it. And yeah, I come out and I was flashing everybody, and that's one too. Crescent was the one where you go into the chapel, and when you
Okay.
go downstairs, that's where that big long tunnel is too. But I was upstairs in the chapel and I was doing an EVP session and I was trying to catch, whatever I could catch there. And I'm sitting in there and it's all quiet. And I kept looking up at the balcony, like I kept catching something just out of the corner of my eye, real quick. So I turn around, I look at the balcony, and I had my voice recorder in my hand, like up in the air, just holding it. And you hear a man's voice very clearly go, "Look up here." I was like, "Cool." People were
That
like,
was.
"Don't you get scared?" I'm like, "Nah, I don't get scared no more. I don't get scared."
Have you encountered anything that was harmful or mischievous, or I mean?
Uh, Um, I was picked up one time about 3 inches off the ground and thrown in weeds.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah, that was a good time. But that didn't even scare me. That just made me really mad. It made me really mad.
No.
But and at Trans Allegheny, that one that that one was weird because I was just standing there and I'm like talking to my group that I'm with, we went down with, and I'm just standing there talking to them, and all of a sudden I just felt like something came up behind me and pushed me as hard as it could with two hands, and I like ate it right in front of them.
No, wow.
And then I got up and I was like, holy cow. And that was before we even went in. We didn't even go in yet. And I was like, well, this is going to be fun. And then after we went through the whole entire place and I'm like finding all this stuff, I had the most terrible time because there was some lady in my head singing London Bridge is falling down. And I couldn't get rid of her. I was
Wow.
like, oh, this is not good. I'm like, if I can't take her home because they're gonna have to lock me up if she keeps doing this. Yeah.
So you think she's the one who pushed you down and she was singing that because you fell?
I don't know, maybe, but
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
But I had to like sit outside in the grass for a while, and like I had to like do a self cleansing ritual and stuff to get her to stop and get out of me because there's
Wow.
nothing worse than ghost herpes. Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I call it when you take something home with you, something
yeah.
jumps on you, goes home. Yeah, that's ghost herpes. Nobody wants that.
Nope. Stay where you are.
Yep.
Nice. So, it sounds like you're busy. I mean, definitely, all the weeks in Gettysburg. You have anything
Yeah.
coming up, or is it like is it over for a while? Like, or you have any investigations or anything in the works?
Well, I have a couple of things I want to do by myself. I just want to go, and do some things that I haven't been able to do all summer because I was busy. But over the winter, I'm going to do a go work at the Farnsworth house. I'm going to rent out the whole entire house,
Okay.
and it's just going to be some people that I'm going to invite, and we're going to investigate all weekend and have a good time
Oh,
because
nice.
when I'm there working, I have to be all, and that's another thing that sucks when I'm doing that down there because I'm teaching people to do what I do.
Okay.
So, like, I miss out on all the good evidence because they're the ones who have the cameras. They're the ones who have this and they're the ones that have that. But, like, I've been going through my voice recorder tonight. I have like 7 months of stuff on it. And I'm
Wow.
sitting here listening to it and I'm like, oh man. And I'm catching stuff and I'm like, man, I didn't even know that was on there. I was like, this is so cool. But yeah, but I want to do that. And then in the spring, there's a couple of us, we want to go to New Orleans and we want to do some investigating down there and do Mardi Gras and stuff. Um, but I want to see if I can find the Rougarou too.
Oh, the Ruger. It's funny because my wife had an experience with Sasquatch here by our house, so that's what led us into the whole like Bigfoot and so forth. So, I know you said New Orleans. First question: have you ever been to New Orleans?
Well, I was there. I used to listen. I used to drive truck. I used to drive an 18-wheeler cross country. So, yeah, I've been there for work.
Okay,
I've been there in a truck, and I've never gotten to like stay and do the cool stuff. So it's always been on my bucket list, and so I'm gonna do that.
nice.
I'm gonna spend time, and yeah,
Yeah, I think you'll have a great time. Oh man, and you said you might be there when we're there. I would love to bring you back on, or even do a show while we're there, real quick. Because I mean, I think, I mean, you got Marie Laveau, you got all of that voodoo and all of that
oh
rich history, and I know. So I'm on a crew of Toth, and our parade is always the Sunday before Fat Tuesday. That and when Gwen and I started dating, I brought her down. She loved it, and turned out that there's a guy on. So my crew is all male. I got her in Iris, and hers is all female, which is nice because her parade is Saturday, my parade is Sunday. So I've been doing it for over 10 years because I used to work in New
Wow.
Orleans at Oxnard, and that's how I got invited on. And then because you have to get invited. So like if there's a guy that wants to be on my crew and there's an opening, after the closing date is in April, like whoever's on the crew has the April to sign up. After that, it's fair game. We can bring new people on and so forth. So I was happy to get on. And then you said the Rougarou. We went on a Bayou tour, maybe like 2-3 years ago. And I know Gwen was asking the driver, like, have you ever seen anything and so forth? And he was like, what? No. And we flat out asked him, and he was like, no. But I had a friend that says he saw something, in one of the swamps. So, yeah, the Rougarou would be cool, But and then a couple of years back, I went down to New Orleans with my parents because my sister was there flew in from California to do a conference. So we all got up and we did one of those little horse tours. And the one, like, there's a place in Jackson Square, and they say that place is haunted by and that's all. I was just giving things out. I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool. It would be. I mean, with all the rich history down there,
Oh
it'd be,
yeah.
it would
Yeah,
be interesting to
definitely.
see if it's just like a whole conference room of people just talking to you because like they know you can hear them or they can sense that you have the ability, and they'd be like, line up, the line starts here, and it's like,
That's what, like, that throws me off sometimes. Like I'll be like walking down the street, and people are like, "Hey, over here, and I'm like, "Oh no!" I like a couple weeks ago, I made a biker cry.
you made a who?
A biker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's sitting on the outside patio drinking beer, with his buddies and his wife.
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh, you doing one of these ghost tours?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do it right here." And they're like, "You believe in ghosts?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Mm-hmm." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Because I see them." And he's like, "What do you mean you see them?" And he's like being a total dork. And he's like, "Do you see any here?" And I'm like, um, "Well, who's this man behind you?" I'm like, "He's about yay high. His hair's like combed over. He's got like this mustache, brown." I'm like, "He's got like little squinty eyes," and I'm trying to tell him, what this guy looks like. And he goes, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Who's he?" He's like, "Sounds like my uncle." I'm like, he's shaking his head, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you see my mother?" And I'm like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Not yet." I'm like, "Come here." I'm like, "Let me hold your hand." So he puts his hand out and I hold it and I shut my eyes. And when I opened it, I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "So is your mother about, 5'3", brown wavy hair, round face?" I'm like, "She's just got like all this attitude." I'm like, "Oh, and by the way," I'm like, "the hospital didn't kill her." I'm like, "She went on her own terms." And he's like, "What's her name?" And I'm like, "It starts with an R. What am I hearing? It starts with an R." He goes, "Holy crap." He's like, "My mom's name is Rita." And he stood up and I thought he was coming over to punch me.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts bawling and he's hanging on me and he's crying. And I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "No, I don't know what to do." I'm like, I hate when I'm right. I hate when I'm right. I'm like, "By the way, she's really mad at you because you don't talk to her." She's like, "You had something going on and she could have helped you with it, but you didn't talk to her about it and you messed it up." He's like, and his wife is like, I told you.
So he wasn't a believer. I am assuming he was a believer after. Or...
Yeah. Because then he's like, do you have a card? Because I'm going to call you. I was like, okay. So I gave him my card.
Wow.
But yeah,
So
I
do
hate
you
when
do
that happens.
readings? Do you do readings or?
Not all the time. No, because I can't promise you that I'm going to pick up anybody.
Okay.
And that's why I tell people, like, I I am I'm the biggest skeptic you're ever gonna come across,
Yeah.
which is crazy, right? That's kind of like an oxymoron, right? Um,
Hmm.
but when it comes to like psychics and mediums, they'll be like, "Are you a medium?" I'm like, "No, I'm a large."
I love the sense of humor.
Because I don't believe in psychics and medium. I really don't. I think people like me, we just have this ability, and if people from the other side want to come and talk to you, they will. If they don't, they don't. I
Hmm.
can't promise you that I'm going to be able to talk to anybody. I can't promise you what's going to go on. So anybody who's going to take your money and say, "Oh, I'm going to guarantee you, I'm going to talk to this person," up, I think they're, I think they're full of baloney. I really do. I really honestly do. And even though I do it,
Hmm.
but I can't do it on command. I can't promise that anybody's going to show up.
Right.
Be-
Because there's not an algorithm or a rhyme or reason that.
No, there really isn't. There's no rhyme or reason behind it. Some days I go, sometimes I go for a long time and I don't see anybody, and I'm thinking, man, all the dead people must have like left the earth because I haven't seen anybody in a week or two. And then all of a sudden, it's like crazy town, and I'm like, oh, I got to go back home, because I got to go to my safe spot.
So I assume you love going to hospitals.
Oh, I hate going to hospitals. I
Well,
hate going to hospitals and nursing homes.
oh, I'm sure the
Yeah.
activity there is high. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The ones that disturb me most are children.
No.
I don't understand that. I hate when I find little kid ghosts
Yeah.
because I think it's a cardinal rule. Kids and dogs,
Right.
you go straight to heaven. So I don't
Right.
understand why they're here. Why would you want to be here?
Now, there's it's another question. Do they have a choice, or like, I mean, like
Mm.
what's your thoughts on that? Like, I mean, I've heard like if it's traumatic and maybe the person dies and they don't know they're dead, they're still
Yeah,
roaming. But
yeah. I think some of them don't realize that they're dead. The perfect example. Well, I can give you a perfect example of two of them.
hmm.
Um, the one example, like the little kids at the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. I
Hmm.
found a little boy there on the children's wing, and he was, you know, not right. He had mental issues. You know, he was special, and he has no clue. He has no clue. He doesn't understand what's going on. He's just, and like when I saw him, you know how little kids do that potty dance, and they're like,
Yeah.
and they just don't. And that's what he did the whole time, and he was kind of like shy, and he was kind of like looking at me, and I got down on my knees, and I was like, come here, come here, I'll hold your hand. And he got real close to me, and he just almost touched me, and this man walked in, and he gone. And I was like, damn it. So like he has no clue. He's still there in that now. You know what I mean? He
Hmm.
has never gone over. And then the other one, like there's a little boy at the Farnsworth house, and it's his choice. He stays there. Like he could go if he wants to, but he's
Okay.
not. That's his home. He likes it. It's his personal playground. He loves it there, and he's not going to go nowhere. So yeah,
And
they make their choice. They make their choice, and so I'm really weird.
mhm.
I just don't do this when I'm awake. I do it while I'm sleeping too.
Oh wow.
So I was talking to your wife about this. I was talking to Glenn up in um up in Marionville.
Okay.
I had something really crazy happen to me this year, and it shook me to my core. Like I didn't know what to do with it. Like I was scared to go to sleep for a couple days.
Did this happen while you were asleep, or?
Hmm? Yeah. Um. So I guess I should. Like I dream walk. I
Okay.
don't dream like people do. Like people will tell me, they had like this weird dream, that they were skiing or whatever, and then it turned into the beach or whatever. I don't dream that. I don't dream like that. I don't dream like that at all. Um, I'm always in this space, and it's really weird. It's this. It's like this field, and there's trees that line down this long walkway, and this walkway is covered in moss. And every one of these trees are different. And some of these trees I've never seen. So I don't know if they really exist or not.
Mhm.
But like there's a maple tree, an oak tree, an evergreen, like a blue spruce. Like every other tree is a different tree. It's not like the same tree over and over and over again. It's like a different one. And there's like all these flowers and stuff. And when you walk down this mossy walkway, there's this bench. And it's like this bench is made just for me. And I'm only 5'3". So when I sit on benches, I don't know how to sit because I just don't fit right. You know what I mean? Like either I look like a little kid, my legs are like dangling, or I'm like, you know, but like this bench, it just fits me. Like it was made just for me. And I'll sit on this bench and then, like sometimes I'll see like these animals go by, like there'll be a moose, or a dog, like there's a golden retriever, and all of a sudden it runs past, and like birds and stuff. And my dad, who passed away 4 years ago, my dad comes to visit me there, which is crazy because I didn't know who he was at first, and I was like, oh, who's this weirdo? But my dad looks like kind of like the fawns off of Happy Days. And he didn't
Okay.
look like that. My dad had no hair. He died from Agent Orange pancreatic cancer. So the Agent Orange had ate all his hair off
Oh
after
wow.
Vietnam. So I've never seen my dad with hair. And now my dad has this full head of hair, and he's always combing it. And he's always winking at me and giving me a thumb. But that was him. That was him. And he'll come and he'll talk to me, and he visits me there. But that's like my safe spot. You know what I mean?
Nice.
It's always perfect there. Like there's no wind. It's not dusk. It's not dawn. It's kind of, like this weird color. Like it's kind of like an orangish, pinkish, purple color there all the time. It's just serene. It's just like, but sometimes this little old lady comes and sits beside me. She never talks to me. So I have no clue who she is. She comes over and she'll talk to me. She slaps me on my knee and will nod. That's it. And I'm like, okay. But in April or May it was May. I think it was May. The house that I'm staying in Gettysburg, I stay there with a friend, and I sleep on one side of the hallway and he sleeps on the other side. And so it was kind of warm, and I had the fan on in my window, and like I kept hearing this pounding, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, what is he doing? So I like wake up, and I'm like looking down the hallway, and I can see this figure, and I'm like, go lay down and go to sleep already. I'm like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And like for 2 days in a row, it just happened. It wasn't him though. It was something else. And then I went to sleep one night and I'm in my spot and I could hear boots like on concrete. You know how boots sound like on an empty concrete hallway?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. And I'm like looking and as it's coming closer, it's getting dark in my spot. My spot is now getting dark and it never gets dark. And then it started getting windy and I'm like, what in the world? And so I stood up out of my bench because I started to panic. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I had this really bad feeling. And it was bad. But so I stand up and my bench disappeared. So I'm like, what the heck? And I'm like looking and I'm trying to figure out what is going on. And I hear these boots running at me. And finally I see this guy running at me. And here it was my roommate's best friend. And I'm like, why are you in my spot? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What the heck are you doing in my spot? This is my spot. Get out of my spot. And he's grabbing me and he's going, Angel, you got to help me. You have to help me. And I'm like, what in the heck? And I heard this sound. It was like this howl. And I was like, what the heck is that? And I grabbed him by his hand and I'm like, come on. I'm like, run. And I'm running down this path. And as I'm looking behind me, it keeps getting darker and darker. And I hear this howling. And I'm like trying to hide behind these trees and these bushes. And all of a sudden, this little brick building shows up out of nowhere. And I'm like, quick in here. So I grabbed him by his arm and I drug him in there. And I'm like holding on to the door. I'm holding on to the door because I can hear whatever was coming. It's coming closer and closer and I can hear it. And he's like screaming at me. He's like, listen to me. He's like, listen to me. You have to tell him. You have to tell him. I'm sorry. He's like, tell him, stop. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And I'm trying to hold this door and this door like explodes and I flew backwards. And this thing had this huge head. It was something out of the worst nightmares I've ever can imagine. It was like, it looked like a dog, but it didn't look like a dog. It looked like if a dog and an alligator had a baby.
Wow.
And its head was huge and it like had no ears and it had like these bloody fangs and it was like slobbering and had these arms with these great big humongous claws. And it reaches in and grabbed him. And I'm holding on to him. And he's screaming. I mean, screaming at the top of his lungs. And by then, I'm like bawling. I'm like crying. And I'm like, somebody please help us, help us. And he's going, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry. And I'm like holding him. And I'm like, please, somebody help us. And then all of a sudden, and it's like dragging me and dragging him both out this door. And it's like shredding his legs and he's screaming and I'm bawling. And all of a sudden this light shows up behind me and I could feel like arms wrap around my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's gone. He was gone. He's just gone. And I'm there. And I look and there's this man standing behind me. And he went. And he disappeared. And I was back in my spot. My bench is there. And it was just like nothing ever happened. And I woke up and like my eyes were like all red and puffy. You could tell I was like crying. Like my pillow was soaked. My head's all sweaty. And I had like finger marks on my arm and around my stomach. Like you could see bruises. And I was like, what the heck was that? I have never, ever, ever experienced anything like that before. And it scared the shit out of me.
Wow.
So, like,
That-
I didn't sleep for like 2 days. I was like afraid to go to sleep. I was like, because I didn't know what that thing is. I still don't know what it is. And
And my question: Did this person bring that with, or was that? I mean, it's kind of like,
okay, so this is where it gets really freaky.
and I'm
So
assuming
right
his
after
friend passed over, right? His friend passed.
yeah, but we didn't know. Nobody knew. He had
Oh,
late that week that I kept having those, like somebody was banging and then had that dream.
yeah.
Days after, his son called and said, "We found Dad dead in the house. He'd been there for about a week."
Oh, wow,
I
wow,
was like, "What the hell?"
wow.
I don't know. But like when I saw him, like he was like all dirty, and his glasses were like all like broken and twisted, and he had like this white T-shirt on him, and it was covered in dirt and blood, and it was just. He came down to visit his friend, and so I'd talked to him before and stuff, but I didn't know him that well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'd never had like really personal one-on-one connection with him other than, hey, how you doing? How long you in town for? You know what I mean? Because I'm always working,
Hmm.
so I pretty much just eat and sleep there. Sometimes I eat, but not very often, you know. But I would like see him maybe, 20 minutes. He'd be there for 3 days and I might see him like 20 minutes the whole time he was there. So, I mean, I didn't know him. So
Right.
I'm like, why in the heck is he coming to my spot? Was it just coincidental that I don't know. I don't know, but it was messed up. And then whenever Brock called and said that he had passed, I was like, holy cow. And he'd been dead for like a week. And I'd been, between not sleeping, having that bad dream, and then 2 nights of him banging on the walls and stuff, it had
Wow.
been like a week.
That is wild. That's wow.
And I've never, nothing like that's happened since. I go to my spot, my dad shows up, that little old lady shows up, there goes a sheepdog, there goes an elephant, you know, nothing like that has happened since or before. So I don't know what that was, but it scared me bad. Yeah.
That would. Wow, that is just wild. And then no one knew this person was dead until after you had this. That's
Nobody knew. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. I have no clue. I can't explain it. I don't understand what it was. So yeah.
Hmm.
I told you I was weird.
No, I am fascinated with people that have abilities. I mean, I don't, and I mean, it's just um, I believe in ghosts. I've never physically seen one. I've seen orbs. I've never seen a full any type of apparition, but it's I would love to, and I would love to get out and do more investigating. I know Bigfoot kind of took over us, so with she does more to investigation there because with her job, she's usually 7 days on, 7 days off. So those 7 days off, she could go do. I just don't, unfortunately, I work, work, and then we have to accrue our hours, and our hours are our sick time, our vacation time, and our holidays. So it's kind of like, that bucket. You don't get the holiday. So I don't have the luxury to do that, which I would like to go get into the woods with her, but then, start doing some more investigating. But I know my sister got married in Gettysburg, and on the corner it was a old bank, was what a banquet hall was where she got. And I know one of her friends was in for the wedding, and they were down by a school, and they had a digital camera, and this was back in 2008, and she took a picture, and by a tree, it wasn't foggy, but by a tree you could clearly see apparition of a soldier, and I thought that was wild.
Yeah.
So, and
You
I
never
know
know what you're going to get.
yeah, it's been a while. And then, like I said, with Bigfoot taking us over, we used to we have a membership for the Gettysburg Battlefield resorts down there. And we'd go before this, we'd try to get there as much as we can when we first bought the camper. That's another thing too. It's like we bought a camper, used it for 5 times, and then that was it. It sits at the end of the driveway because we just don't have the time to go camping, which, so. But yeah, we would try to, drive into the battlefield to see if we could see anything. So it's interesting. You got a company?
Yeah. I have a haunted table.
What's that?
I have a haunted table.
Oh, okay.
There's somebody in it. His name's Ed. Yeah. You pick up weird things. I tell people all the time, watch when you go to the antique malls and stuff and you pick up stuff. Be careful what you get because you might bring home something you didn't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's wow. So,
We're getting close to our hour.
yeah, I mean, I could keep going, but I like to respect your time as well. So I mean, I appreciate it.
No, it
And
doesn't matter. You said keep it to an hour, and I'm like, oh man.
so we could go. We could. I try to keep an hour is like what we're like. We try to get to an hour, but I mean, I'll be more. I mean, I'm always like, I'm not ready to say like, hey, I'm done. I want to hear more stories. I'm fascinated by everything. Hey, Bill, how you doing? There's Griffin, the OG, watching as well, commenting. But no, I mean, we don't have to stick to an hour. I mean, if you have other things you want to talk about, things you've done, things you're going to do, what do you got in the works? I mean, an hour's a guideline.
Okay. All right. I just didn't want to, overextend
No.
my stay.
Oh, no. But I'll tell you, if you were going to be in New Orleans when we're there, we should get together. And
Yeah.
but definitely would love to have you back because I'm going to probably end up ending this season. I started doing it. I was a co-host, and then I became the host. So there was a little bit of a break, and I'm gonna try to just revamp and do things for like reschedule, like get back in it like next year. So like in the next couple of weeks, I'll probably. I don't know if I have any more guests. I thought I would do this Paranormal Files open forum where I just come on and see if people want to chat or if people have stories they want to tell. I'd send a link out and get them on. But wrap up the season. I would love to have you back next year, just because I want to hear if I don't see you in New Orleans, I want to hear your experience because I want to hear like the whole what you know. I can't imagine.
Yeah. I'm wherever I go, I'm gonna hijack whatever's going on because it just happens that way. Like we went to Nashville not too long ago, on vacation. Just having a good time. Always wanted to go to the Ryman Auditorium,
Okay.
So I'm like, hey, let's go on this sightseeing tour, And you get on this bus and they drive you around and they show you all the sights. And we went to the Ryman and then to the Country Music Hall of Fame. And there's a lot of dead people in Nashville. There's a lot of dead people in Nashville. But we went to the Ryman and when I walked into the Ryman Auditorium, I'm like, oh no. Because there's like 13 of them running around, polishing the pews and the brass and stuff. and this old lady standing there with her arms crossed, watching them. And I'm like, so I'm like,
Oh,
call my husband over, I'm like, Mark, come here. And he's like, what? I'm like, do you want to know about the ghost here? And he's like, yeah. And my girlfriend and her husband, they know about me because they're like, come on, let's go find something haunted so you can go and freak us out. I'm like, okay. So they come over and they're like, what's going on? So I told them, and like we're walking around. He's like, do you see anybody famous? I'm like, no, other than this old lady and these people, cleaning the Ryman. And then we're on the bus, and I looked up at this big fancy house up on the hill.
mhm.
And I'm like, do you want to know about the 2 dead people in the yard? And I just said that, and the tour guide goes, while they were building this mansion, the chief engineer and the foreman died, and they're buried in the walls.
What?
And I'm like, well, that explains that. So then we're out, and then when I'm drunk, it's really bad. I try not to drink too much because then I have no ability to shut it off. So we walked
Oh,
into Coyote Ugly Bar, and I looked down and I'm like, hey, do you know you have a dead person here?
oh.
And they're like, yes. They're like, no, do you see him? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, there's a man sitting down there. And they're like, somebody comes in and knocks the glasses and the bottles off the shelves at night. And I'm like, cool. And then we were in this other bar. Then I'm totally wasted by then. And I come out and I'm looking at this girl, and her boyfriend is standing beside her. And I think he was being kind of mean to her. And I'm like, excuse me. I'm like, excuse me. And she's like, what? I'm like, listen, I'm not crazy, but I see dead people and you have somebody on your back. I'm like, he looks like he's Mexican descent. I'm like, he's got silver grape, salt and pepper hair. It's split right down the middle. I'm like, little tiny, little thin mustache. I'm like, he's got a white linen shirt on. I'm like, sleeves are rolled up, and he's looking at you, and he's got his arm around you, and he's protecting you. And she was like, that's my Poppy. I'm like, well, I don't think Poppy likes this boy. I'm like, you better get rid of it. And I turned around and walked away.
Oh my God. I
That's
bet
just
you
kind of
that's a
stuff.
riot.
And my girlfriend's looking at me. She's like, you could have delivered that a little bit nicer. I was like, how you want me to deliver it? I'm like, Grandpa, I don't like him. I'm like, okay.
It's funny. Bill Rigby wants me to ask you about squeaky shoes.
Oh, Bill Rigby, you and your damn squeaky shoes. We went to the Butler VA hospital, and I mean, I'm picking them out left and right there too.
Oh wow.
And I'm trying to do some investigating, and I don't know if he just got new boots or what. And he was nervous, so he's pacing up and down the polished hallway. And every time he moves, it's like, I'm like, if you keep moving, I'm going to rip off your legs. I'm like, I'm going to shove those boots right up your butt, Bill.
Oh, poor Bill. He gets picked on everywhere he goes, but he's a good guy.
Yeah, but he really deserves it.
At times, but sometimes we have to respect our elders.
Yeah, I know, and he's really old.
He is. He says he's not, but I don't know. We say
He's gonna
70
be like,
some, he says 50 some. I think it's somewhere in between.
I thought he was older than 70. I'm just picking Bill.
But oh man, that is wild that where you go. But I can imagine walking up to somebody, their reaction at first, like, I'm not crazy, but when you see that.
Like before, I would never tell people that. But now I'm like, what the heck? May as well. I'm like,
Yeah,
listen, I'm not crazy, but
and the
I
fact
might
that
be.
they that story about the two buried in a wall, like that's a little shady. I would think like they died, but you didn't bury them. You put them in a wall of this mansion. That's
Yeah, they buried them in the wall of this mansion. There's two of them. And I'm like, well, that makes sense then why there's two dead people in this in the middle of this yard. And the people on the bus are going, what? And my
it's
husband's
two
like,
tours
she
in
does this
one. You get to see
everywhere.
Nashville and you get the paranormal side of it all in one for one low price.
Yep. He's like, she does this everywhere we go.
But that's funny. A crew of 13 and a lady watching them polishing the seats.
Yeah, they were polishing the seats and the brass and everything. And I was like, can I take them home with me?
I'll say, bring them
Because they
on
were
over
doing
here.
a
I got
really nice.
stuff they can clean. Wow, like that. Now that must be a talk about hell. Doing the
Yeah,
same
I know,
thing. Like,
right?
go live a little. Take the day off.
I know.
Wow.
People always ask me, what are you going to do when you die? I'm like, I'm going to haunt the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm going to travel because I know they can move. I mean, I know they can go other places, you know?
Okay. And what do you mean by that? Like, have you seen somebody one place, but then maybe you saw them somewhere else, or?
Yeah. Like I've seen like I don't know if they can move out of that town though, but that would be great if you could. I don't know. But like some of the ghosts, especially down in Gettysburg, because I see them so often, and now I
Mhm.
recognize him. I'm like, oh, I've seen him there before, but now why is he down here? You know?
Nice.
So I know they can move from spot to spot. And I don't know
Nice.
how far they can move, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm dead, I'm gonna figure that out.
Yeah.
Because I got a lot of people I want to just mess with.
You have a list.
Yeah, I do. I have a list. And like I bring things home with me, you know. I brought one home by accident not too long ago. He's in my basement now. My husband and I, we live in the basement of our house. My son and his wife and the two kids, they live up in the main part of the house, and we live like in the in-law suite in the
Okay.
basement. Yeah, and he's like, "You gotta quit bringing things home." He was standing in the bathroom peeing one night, and somebody stood behind him and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "I almost had a heart attack." He's like, "Can you please quit that?" I'm like, "I didn't mean to." But I saw it walking around down there the other night. I was like, so I'm trying to figure out where I brought it from. But it seems like the only person he really wants to mess with is my husband.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
So I mean, I know they can move from place to place because he wasn't there before, so I don't know who he is.
And you don't know where you got them. Can't return them.
I yep, I
Lost the
can't return him.
receipt.
I did. Like that's what I say. You gotta watch when you buy antiques because you never know what's in it.
Oh, that's true. But isn't it mostly? Is it anything, or is it mostly? I heard it was like dolls, or could it be anything like
Be
antique?
anything. It can be anything. Like I have a bullet that was dug up at the Burnside Bridge in Antietam or
Okay.
Sharpsburg, when you want to call that. Um, I brought that home with me, and then I started seeing this soldier, and I was like, okay. So I don't know if maybe he was shot by that bullet or what, but yeah,
Wow.
now he's in my house and like my table. I have a haunted Bible.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
You should start
I had
charging
a
these.
couple.
I'm sorry. What was that?
I have a couple haunted dolls, and yeah, it can be anything.
Wow. You should be charging them rent.
I know. Freeloaders.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it can be anything. Yeah, dolls really creep me out though.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the cool things in the Farnsworth house. Um the Warrens
Mm-hmm.
were at the Farnsworth house.
Okay.
Well, Lorraine was. It was after Ed passed,
Okay.
where she died. She visited the Farnsworth house, and she blessed the door and put a signal on the one door in the basement.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Warren. So her,
Yeah.
yeah, him, no. Yeah, she was the talent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, she was the one that had the ability to do what she did. He was just an opportunist, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Riding the
but
coattails.
yeah, she was the pure talent. She's a very nice lady. Him, not so much. But
Oh,
but yeah, people always ask me too, like about demons and stuff. Oh, that's a cool story I can tell you.
okay.
This year in Gettysburg, um, I do this late tour for them. It's called the Tormented and Lost Souls.
Okay.
It's only on this tour, but a lot of times, like when you walk across the street from the Farnsworth house, there's this little park, and that's where I start my tours at. And sometimes there's these two Confederate soldiers that hang out there, and they're just like standing there, and they're like, hey, we've heard this story before. And then when I'm like walking up the street, I'll look, and when I stop at a different spot, I'll look in my crowd, and they'll be in the crowd. Okay, so they just go along with me on my tour, and then they go back. So I always expect them to be over there, but this summer, for some reason, like that hollow there is just felt really strange. And the Torment and Lost Souls tour, it starts at 10 o'clock and it goes till midnight. So I'm pretty much out there all by myself with these people. And I've lost 9 people this year. And I mean, like, I didn't like lose them like on the streets or anything. They pass out in the middle of my tour. And I don't do anything without my St. Benedict's medal on.
Okay.
I don't anywhere without it because it's my protection. I don't know if whatever this is, I keep seeing this dark shadow like lurking, like
Mm-hmm.
behind me, behind this tree. The last time it happened, he was up on this bank, and I see him coming across the bank, and I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, there he is. I'm like, come on, people. I'm like, let's go back down to the Farnsworth house. So I don't know if he's trying to get me and he's like bouncing off of me and hitting these people or what. But like they've all had the same like reaction. They just start sweating profusely and their ears start ringing to the point where like they can't hear. And then they just black out and pass out right in the middle of the tour. And like they'll be talking to me. They'll be like asking me a question in the middle of a question. All of a sudden, they're like, wham, like somebody cut down a tree and just like eat it right in front of everybody.
Wow.
And
And
I'm up
only
to
on that
9.
one 9.
Yep. I was shooting for an even dozen, but I wasn't there long enough. If I go back for a couple weeks before the end of the year, maybe I can get them.
Well, now I want to go on your tour. I'll have to make a point to get down there.
Yeah, I mean, only 3 more. I only need 3 more. It's it's good to have goals.
Exactly. Or just shoot for a baker's dozen, 4 more, 13.
Yeah, why not?
Why settle for a dozen?
Yeah,
Wow. Well, they get their money's
but
worth
yeah,
then. Now, do they know they passed out? Like when they come through?
they have
No,
no clue.
not,
It
no.
is it's the strangest thing. I mean, I can't explain it. Like there for a while, and I hate that because then I have to fill out an incident report, even though they
Oh,
signed the waiver. You know, if you fall down, you get hurt. If anything happens to you, it's not my fault. You can't sue us. You're doing this at your own risk, you know. And but I still have to fill out an incident report. I've only filled out a couple of them because it got to be too much. They're like, why is this only happening on your tour? Because there's two other guys that do the late tour too.
mm-hmm.
Nothing ever happens on their tour. And they're like, why is it only yours? I'm like, I don't know. But I'm telling you, it's whatever that dark thing is, because it won't show itself to me. It won't show me what it really is. It's just dark. It's just this dark shadow. And a couple times I just thought maybe it was just, something with the lighting there or something, but no, I'm thinking there's something else. So if I go and do that thing this winter, with the group, I want to have a group of us there for the weekend and investigate all weekend. I'd like to see if I can pull this bugger out of the woodwork.
Well, and those 2 Confederate soldiers that join your party for your like the tour, they don't have to pay. Man, I'll tell you, freeloaders.
I know they don't even tip. but yeah, I mean, at first I thought maybe it was them, but it's not. It's not them. It's not them at all. So I don't know. I don't know what this thing is, and I don't know where it came from, but I've never seen it before in all the years I've been there. I've never seen that down there in that hollow.
Hmm.
And why it started picking on the people on my tour group this year, I have no clue. But I think it's pretty cool.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, the one and the Torment and Lost tour is like an anything goes. We talk about stuff people don't talk about. And like one of my favorite heroes from the Civil War era is Clara
Mm-hmm.
Barton, when
Okay.
she started doing her thing. And I love reading the journals about the nurses, and the nasty, disgusting things that they had to do. And
Mm.
I had these 2 brothers, and they were like in their 20s, and they were there with their mom and dad on vacation, and they're doing the tour. And they were having a great time. And they were asking me, about, the nurses and what all they did and everything. And so I tell them this story about how she says that sometimes, unfortunate accidents happen when they're trying to take care of these soldiers. And most of them don't bath, when they have, lice and vermin crawling all over them. They haven't bathed in months, and their skin is stuck to their wool uniforms.
Ooh.
And when they go to remove certain things, like she says how she's accidentally unmanned a soldier or 2. And I'm like, you did what now? I'm like, you pulled off the wiener? And I'm like, what do you do when you pull off somebody's wiener? I'm like, do you kick it off to the side, or you pick it up and be like, oh, I'm sorry, this is yours? I'm like, what do you do? So I was doing that. And the one brother was like, no way. He's like, are you? And he passes out. And I was like, oh no. So I like got down on all fours and I'm like sniffing this kid. I'm making sure he's not drunk or something, And he came to. And he's like, what? And I'm like, you just passed out. He's like, no, I didn't. And the other brother standing beside him, he's like, yeah. He's like, she was talking about her pulling off your wiener. And he passed out. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. So I got both. And the people on my tour are going, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know." So we finally get them both awake, and they're both like, they didn't have any clue what's going on, but they're like covered in sweat. I mean, they're like soaked, and they're like, "Man, we couldn't." He's like, "I couldn't hear nothing." And the dad went up and got the car and took them out of there and took them back to the hotel. And they called me because I gave them my phone number. I'm like, "Call me and let me know how they are." I'm like, "Please." They called me like 10 minutes later and they're like, "They're absolutely fine." Absolutely
Interesting.
fine. They don't even remember what happened.
Wow. They didn't.
I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And yeah, everybody who's like passed out on my tour, they come to and they don't even remember passing out.
The OG says, "Who pulled their wick?" I missed that. Come on, OG, pay attention. It was a Civil War nurse talking about pulling off a soldier's man part. But she was saying on her tour, these two brothers that were in their 20s, the one brother said talk about pulling off the man's wiener and he passed out. And then when his brother said the same thing, he passed out. That's a little interesting. Like, wow. What a story. I mean, in the Civil War, I mean, that's, oh, there. Like, I mean, nobody, and it had to be fun.
Yeah, if people really knew what went on back then, I mean, they'd probably be like, "Oh man, that's not good." Yeah, it was kind of rough. I would not want to live back then. No. People ask me all the time, "Don't you want to go back in time?" No.
Did they tell
Before,
you anything? Like if they communicate like how times were, or or still are for them, because they realize they're not in the 1700s, 1800s.
some of them do. Some of them do realize, it's not 1863 or whatever. Some of them don't. The ones that I get a kick out of, they think any woman that's wearing pants or shorts is a prostitute. Because, proper ladies didn't dress like that, they don't dress like us. So I'll be in my hoop skirt and they'll be like behind me going, "Hey, how much does she charge?" You know what I mean? And I'm like, "Stop it."
Oh.
That is not a prostitute. That's somebody's grandmother, and I'll quit it. But yeah, it's very confusing for some of them. They don't understand. And some of them do. It's interesting. It's interesting how different they all are. You know what I mean? Like there's no rhyme or reason behind any of the spirits, because some of them, and like I don't understand why some of them can't communicate with the other ones. Like some of them can. Some of them can, but then there's other ones that can't. And I guess, but I can't wrap my brain around that, the Matrix and parallel universes and this and that. No. I'm just like, I don't know why they can. I don't know why they can't. What freaks me out is when one will walk through the other one and they don't even know. Wow. And you're like, what the heck just happened there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, like those two Confederate soldiers that jumped my tour and go with me, like they're intelligent, and they're there for the, and he's one of the ones that will say, "Hey, how much she charging?" And but then there's some of them that I watched and it was like they walk right through each other like nothing, and I'm like, that's just mind blown.
So that's I have a question from that. That brings up at least for me. So I'm here. You are talking about the period you're talking about back then. Did you ever get like a no or like them shaking their head like yes or no? Like maybe it's not like or has maybe not you per se, but maybe somebody speaking and I don't know. Like because I mean, who better to
Yeah.
know the period and what went on are
Mhm.
these entities and somebody saying or if you're on a tour like if maybe there's a somebody with you and they say something and you get like a no that didn't happen
Yeah,
or
yeah, I do.
yeah.
Like, yeah, that didn't happen. Like, what are you talking about? You know? Yeah, yeah, because there's one tour group, and that's why I like working where I work because we're walking historians. We're not scripted, okay?
Hmm.
So we have to know all this stuff, and I read a lot. Like if you could see my library over on the other side of my room, you'd be like, I'm always reading something. Sometimes I read 2 or 3 books at one time. But
Wow.
yeah, my brain is crazy. I have OCD and ADHD, so I'm like a squirrel, but I know where my nuts are hid, and they're all polished and organized. But yeah, like these other groups, they make up these stories, and they were telling this story about the Confederates throwing babies out windows, and that one's going,
I think we Angel, are you there?
"Was that me or you?"
I don't know. Oh, did I freeze as well? Because I know you froze as well.
Yeah, we both froze.
Okay.
Well, that
But
was
you're
weird.
yeah,
But
that
yeah,
was.
they're like, "No, that did not happen. We did not do that." And I'm like, "Oh, they better quit saying that because something might jump in them." I mean, like,
Do any of them want to know who won the war?
um, the ones that don't know that they're gone. They don't believe they don't believe that the war is over. They think it's still
Okay.
going on. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, like Walter, he knows it's over, and he's like, okay. But like most of the time, he's pretty like casual about it. Like, okay, yeah, so it's over, and I'm never going home, and whatever. But during the week of the anniversary,
Yeah.
he like takes it personal. Like I've seen him come running up behind somebody and push him to the ground because they were talking smack about General Lee,
Oh wow.
and they were dressed like a Union soldier. I've watched him push people down. Um, and then there's other times like he could care less, but I don't know if it's because it's that time. You know what I mean? It's that
Mhm.
time of the year, and it's just all that energy's all ramped up. That, and I think it takes him back to that moment, and right there, that he gets real personal about it.
Wow. So that is well. This is fascinating. I could talk about this because now it leads me into another question. Because you're talking about the whole anniversary and this upsetting them. One has to also wonder what do these men and women think of the reenactments, like over all these years and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I'm sure that if somebody with your ability, not everybody has the ability, but with your ability, and people who have the abilities to do this, I mean, that's got to be like I would think wild too, because you're probably setting off a lot of emotions in these entities and ghosts because they still think if the war is going on or if the war is over, wondering why the war is still going on certain periods of this throughout the year. Like,
Yeah, and seeing like like I'm saying, like with Walter, because I mean, he's intelligent, and he responds to me and he says yes or no. And, and he counts for me and he does all this stuff. But during that week, like he's a different feeling. Like he just goes back. He just goes back to July 1st through the 3rd of 1863. And that's where he's at in time. And then, like a week later, I have good old Walter back again, like he's the way he was, 3 weeks ago. He's fine, but it's weird. But yeah, when they're doing the reenactments and stuff and they're shooting the cannons and everything,
Yeah.
It really ramps the energy up in that town. It gets overwhelming. And like this time of year, and people don't understand, they're like, oh, it's because it's Halloween and this not. No. What went on this time of year in 1863 is they're scrambling, trying to get the National Cemetery done because Lincoln's on his way to give the Great Gettysburg Address, and dedicate the cemetery. And so they're digging up these people left and right, and they're reinterring them up there on top of the hill. So, they're living through that right now, where somebody came and disturbed their eternal slumber.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't like it when you dig them up. Yeah. I always tell people, like, I would not dig a swimming pool in Gettysburg.
Oh.
Nope. Because there's so many that are still there. There's mass graves there. There's a lot of crazy there. And there's ghost horses. Yeah. Those ones are fun. I love to find the ghost horses. Those are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there was over 3,000 dead.
Where do you mostly see them on the battlefield, or do you see them in town?
You see them in town. You see them on the battlefield. You see them everywhere.
Wow. And you said 3,000 horses?
3,000 horses died.
A
million horses die altogether from 1861 to 1865.
That's a lot of horses. Wow.
Yeah.
I guess you don't think about that when you think about the war. You think about the men. You don't think about the animals. But yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. You don't even think about the number of men that died in that time period. There was over 600,000. So
yeah, that's insane.
Just in Gettysburg alone is over 50,000. And so why wouldn't it be haunted? You know what I mean? Everything in that town was touched by death. There's more men who died in Gettysburg than died in Vietnam.
Wow.
So it's unreal. And like the Confederate boys that died there, most of them are still there. They're still there, and they're in those big trench graves,
Yeah.
They're just buried like cats and forgotten. So why wouldn't they be there? Why wouldn't they be pissed? Wouldn't you be?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's why I love to go there, because I'm fascinated by that part of it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's why they still haunt that, because they weren't treated so well. They weren't, a good death is being surrounded by your family, and then they put you in this nice little fancy box and they put you 6 feet under, and, these guys didn't have that. They didn't have that at all.
No proper burial, just thrown in a mass grave. I never thought of that. Like and Gettysburg's not that big in square miles. I mean, it's
no.
So I mean, that's a lot of I know it's been a while. I took a tour, and I mean, and I've also seen like some of the on a History Channel, but like how just people's houses were used for either a Confederate or a Yankee hospital, and body parts were just dumped out the windows, and if they had
Yep.
to amputate and stuff like that, just it was like almost like a drive through. Like, I mean, you didn't get up and walk if you got something amputated, but it was just that in and out. Like, it was just like a you know
Yep.
assembly line of
In,
just dismantling.
in fact, right across the road, from the Farnsworth house is a school, and where the school's at, there was a big, like a natural canyon crevice that was always there, and that was the Culp farm back then, and it was 30 feet long, 20 feet deep, and 10 feet wide.
Wow.
And they took all of the limbs from town and put them in hand carts and carted them over there and dumped them in that hole. Because what else were
Oh,
they going to do with all the limbs? And it filled it. It filled it to the top. Well, I lost them. But yeah.
sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I bumped my mouse and I disappeared. But you were
That's
talking
okay.
about the carts and that cage.
Yeah. They took the limbs and they dumped them in that hole, and it was that hole was filled to the top. They couldn't fit any more limbs in it. And then they just covered up with dirt, and that was it. So that's
Wow,
how many limbs were amputated there in Gettysburg, that have filled that hole the whole way to the top.
that that's insane.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
It's kind of morbid, but that's kind of crap I like.
Oh, me too. Hold
Yeah.
on one second. Sorry about that. Didn't want the bullet hounds to come in, but the OG says, "Sure, Mike, she muzzy you." I don't know what that means. I guess I bum something. So, uh, but yeah, now I want to get to Gettysburg and do more tours. I did a tour with my in-laws when we were camping a couple years back, and it was fun, but you know, definitely an interesting place. And it's so nice that we're just 2 hours from Gettysburg, so it's not too far, and the history
No,
is incredible.
I'm about three hours and 15 minutes, but depending on how I go, like if I go down 30 and I never use my brake from the top of the mountain to the bottom, I shave off like 10 minutes.
Yeah, nice.
Hmm.
So from you said you're from Puxatawny. Have you ever watched the rodent tell you if it's going to be 6 more weeks?
No, because he's a liar. So you want to hear? You want to hear the funny
Yeah,
history about Punxsutawney?
sure.
So back in the day, Punxsutawney is mainly a farming community, and then we had the coke ovens too. But the farmers would all get together like the first or second week of February, and they would figure out who was planting what, because then it all depended on, okay, so everybody can't plant corn and everybody can't plant oats or wheat. So everybody had to pick out what they're going to plant and where it's going to go, because they shared it and sold it to each other, because the whole entire community depended on this farmers. So they got together and they did that. And then they would have a big banquet afterwards. And the main thing on the meal was roasted groundhog. Welcome to Groundhog's Day.
Oh, don't think I ever heard of anybody eating a groundhog. I mean, squirrels,
Oh man,
rabbits.
we used to eat them all the time. You just roast it low and slow. Yep.
Wow.
It tastes pretty much like a rabbit.
Okay.
All they eat is grass and berries and stuff.
Mm. Boy, for grass and berries, they're sure fat little bastards.
Yeah. But yep, that's why That's why Groundhog's Day is Groundhog's Day.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
and
Snarly Y'all says groundhog stew is good.
yeah, it is. If you cook it right, it melts right in your mouth.
Oh, I
Yeah.
might have to tell Gwen to look up a recipe. We have some groundhogs going under the shed and under the garage. And I always say, we
There
could
you go.
shoot them. Like, no, don't shoot them. Well, now I could shoot them. We could eat them.
That's right. Don't kill it unless you're going to eat it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, tastes just like rabbit. hmm Just cook it nice and slow. And lots of onions.
Nice.
Yeah, it's better than goat.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've ever had goat.
It's not bad.
I like that bad. Oh my God. Well, we are over an hour and a half. I would love to have you back, and I hope everybody enjoyed. If before we go, I do want to play. I keep forgetting. The conversation's been good. I want to play a commercial real quick. I'm gonna take a 2-minute break, and let me go to our commercial here before we wrap up.
Okay.
It's not Gawkers, it's Got Knockers. Hey, have you been to the Squatchfield site on the interweb that has it all? Introducing GotKnockers.org. Stop on by for an intriguing story of the encounter that started it all. But wait, there's more. Got Knockers offers some fabulous merchandise like t-shirts, hoodies, onesies for the baby, plus a stunning array of jewelry and some fantastic sauces that will make your taste buds dance. But the coolest of all is a genuine Got Knockers tree knocker. Stop on by and say hi to the folks of Got Knockers, Gwendolyn and Michael Purcell. Get in on the action and just visit GotKnockers.org. Again, GotKnockers.org.
All right.
I have one of those shirts. I wear it all the time whenever I'm down there. I'm trying to sell
Yeah.
tickets. I got a knocker shirt on.
Nice. Did
Yep.
the soldiers say anything about Got Knockers?
No, no, but I've
Maybe
had
they don't-
plenty of drunks.
What's that?
I've had plenty of drunks out of the beer garden say stuff.
Oh, of course, we love it. It's a play on words, and maybe that's true. Maybe they don't know the slang, the soldiers' slang for knockers. But,
Yeah.
yeah. But all right. Well,
But
I
yeah.
appreciate Angel coming on, and I'm definitely looking forward to be in touch with Gwen and myself if we're going to be lucky enough to be in New Orleans at the same time. Definitely like to schedule you again next year because, like I said, I still want to hear about that and other adventures. And I know David, the Snarly Yaw, I said about he mentioned he's only an hour from Gettysburg, and I said we should get together and take your tours. And let's see, he said, thanks, Angel. I said about getting together in Gettysburg and taking your tours because you never know. You could have between me, Gwen, and David, we could have there's your dozen.
There you go. There you go. I need a dirty dozen.
That's right. Oh, yeah. And if we get one more, we'll make it a baker's dozen. And maybe we'll just have to talk about what's that?
We'll get Bill.
Oh, yeah, we'll get Rigby.
We'll get Bill Rigby.
Yeah.
I'd like to use him for good. Yeah.
We'll let him be the guinea pig. We'll let him be number 10.
Yeah.
Maybe the first 9 got away lucky. Maybe 10, 11, and 12 are going to have it rough. So we'd rather have 10. Just throw him in the trunk and bring him on over.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you. And yeah, we'll have to get together again.
Yeah, definitely. And again, if you stayed to the end of this program and you liked what you saw, go ahead and like it, share it, tell your friends. If you have any suggestions on shows, feel free to, not the questions, feel free to go ahead and email me at carc.mpurcell@gmail.com. And we'll be in touch. And let's see, I don't know if I have another show yet, But if I don't, everybody have a great Thanksgiving. I'll try to get on before or after Thanksgiving, and definitely before Christmas and New Year's. Just maybe do an open forum if I don't have a guest, and then I'll probably wrap up the season somewhere before there and revamp and get back at it again. All right, so
Yeah,
I'm going to take us out, and Angel, have a great night, and thank you. And like I said, I could definitely have some beers and listen to more of your stories, and maybe even talk about a dismembered wiener, and maybe I could be number 11, 10, 11, pass it out for that one.
all righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
This has been a CARC Universal production.
All right, I'm going to end this.
Okie doke. All right. Well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been a CARC